Let's get into driving.
I don't know. Actually, you know what? The JD market, that's a little different for me. I don't deal with that.
They're born out of their mind.
There's certain skills that you have to learn to play this system. You have to learn how to drive, you gotta learn how to set screens, you gotta learn how to pass under pressure, you gotta learn how to post up, you gotta learn to be able to shoot from anywhere, all different situations while you're moving, while you're back to the goal, all these different situations. There's a few others, but those are the most important ones. And you certainly have to learn to, and you know, if you're teaching it to young kids, driving, one-on-one drive would be the first thing that I would teach. I mean, you know, it takes, you might do that for a while before you even got into running picks and screens. It's a little more complicated, a little more elaborate. But we already talked about this. You can teach your kids how to drive. You know, you can beat people on drives. And then you have to teach them what to do once they've completed the drive too. How to hold inside water and all that kind of stuff. So, there are certain things that have to happen in order for a drive to be successful. First, your first objective is to try to get the ball side. Okay? So, before you can gain ball side, there's certain things you have to do. First, I would start the drive, 5 or 6 yard line. You don't want to start too close, because if you do beat that defender, you're going to be right on top of the goalie, and it's going to be tough to get the ball. So you got to start out fairly long, or fair distance away from the goal. And you cannot. First thing you do is you want to start in a hips up position. You want explosive start. So it's a big scissor kick, big breaststroke kick, and boom, hard. Your stroke has to be hard, especially it's like you're shot out of a cannon. You just explode out of that drive. Now you don't want to drive into the into the defender. If you drive into the defender, there's already the referee is ready to call an offensive foul against you. So your move has got to be at an angle. Now you could, if the defender's playing off of you a little bit, then you maybe take one stroke forward, and then your next stroke has to be right or left. So you have to be able to change directions. You can stop and start, but those first couple strokes have got to be explosive. Now, if I'm going to drive from here, and the ball's over here, okay, I want to drive ball side. Now, if the defender is right in front of me, or over on my left side here, that's easy to drive ball side, okay? And especially if their hips are down, and it's really easy to drive. Hips are down is the first thing you look for, and I swear 80% of the time the person guarding you is going to have their hips down. So, if the person's hips are down, then it's really easy to drive past them, because you have your hips up, you explode, you go past them, and their hips go like this, they have to turn, and then get the hips up, and then go after you, so you can get around a lot easier. So, we want it, if I was like this, my first stroke or two would be in this direction, ball side drive. And again, it's easy, and again, not only are their hips going to be down, a lot of times they're going to be out of position. I mean, a lot of coaches do not teach that the defender has to take away the ball side. So if you've got that open side, that's where you're going to go to. And then it has to be intense. It has to be a quick turnover, fast stroke, hard kick, and keep your head up. And you've got to be looking for the ball all the time. You've got to be able to receive the ball at any time during that drive. And then if you get in there and you've got the person on your back, and you end up like this. Now you've got a ball side drive. The ball has to get in there quick. Now you've got to be able to do something. You can draw exclusion. You can shoot it. Whatever you want to in that situation like that. So that's the ball side drive when the defender's out of position is fairly easy. And then you can get past them on that side too. If you get past them on that side, you end up in this position like this, okay? Then you get to a certain point here, like about the 3, where you wanna stop and keep that defender behind you. You have to conserve this water here in front of the goal. Here's the goalkeeper, and that's where and those defenders will try to go around you. And so if you feel them going around one side, you have to slide that way and just keep your body in front of them. You can hold your arms out like that too, maybe even hold an arm like that. Just to get, and if they go over you, that should be, well, if you don't have the ball, that should be an exclusion. If you have the ball, it's gonna be a 5 meter. So you have to hold that water, maintain that water. Again, if you have the hips up, you got the arms out like that, and if you feel them going right or left, you just have to slide right or left. But you definitely have got to keep them behind you in that situation. That's a hard pass to make, by the way, especially if the defender's over here. That pass from here is a very difficult pass to make. So there's another decision the passer has to make, whether they get that ball in there. And it's got to land right here. And it's got to, or if I have a space, if I've beaten the person and I'm stopped in front of the goal and I've got about 2 or 3 feet, then they can throw it in dry. If the defender's right on my back, then they got to throw it in wet. If they throw it in dry, the defender right behind is going to be able to take it away. So there's another decision. Throw it wet, throw it dry, throw it to the right hand. In this situation like this, you're probably going to have a tough time getting the ball in there. Maybe do not throw that. In a situation like this, and this driver here doesn't get the ball, boom, left turn, go right to that post. Okay? And even if I'm swimming sometimes, if this defender starts here on me on ball side, and the 2 of us are swimming in here together, we're swimming in here together, and Marty was great at this. You're swimming in, and that person's taking away ball side all the way in. You come in, and when you get to about the 3, you immediately use the left hand, pull to the left. You're swimming like this, pull to the left, bring your legs up like this, and swim to this post. So it's a left turn, 90-degree turn. So you come in, it's all in one motion. You don't stop. You just swim, 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 turn, boom, go. So it's boom, boom, like that. And you can make the dry pass there to that person. Because when you make that move, you're going to open up a little space between the defender. Because the defender is swimming next to you, and as soon as you make the move, the defender has to turn also. But they're going to be a split second late, and you can open up some space, maybe get that dry pass there. So now, you can also get ball side if the person's playing over here. This is good defense. Okay? There's a way to get ball side here. And what you do is if you have to make the defender think you're going to go that way. Okay? And the defender's sitting there waiting for you. They're taking away your ball side position. I want the defender to think that I'm going to go this way. So I have to sell the drive, sell the move, by taking, again, a couple of hard strokes, boom, boom, in this direction, right? What's this defender going to do? This guy's on defense, you start driving, they're going to turn around like this and go with you, okay? So as soon as they turn to go with you and you get them on their stomach, then you stop. And they're taking a stroke, you stop, here, so you go to here, you're in this position here, this person is trying to stay ahead of you, they're facing that way, they're swimming on their stomach. As soon as you get them on their stomach, so you sell them, you go 2 hard strokes, boom, you stop, and you cross over and go this way. You just cross over their legs. And that shouldn't be called an offensive foul, if you cross over their legs. But again, you have to sell them and get them to be turned. If they don't turn and they just stay ahead of you the whole time, then you really can't cross over. But once they turn on their stomach, then you can cross over and go ball side. Or, if they're staying right next to you, you can also, if you can beat them to the punch, if they've started with their legs, hips down, you can get past them on this side, over here, and you get to this situation, you get past them, and then you have to slide over. After you've got past them, you have to slide over in front of them and get that inside water. So it's kind of, you go forward, and then you slide over in front of them and get them on your back. And then you maintain that inside water. So you have all these different options. You can go in, go to the post, you can go take a couple strokes here, cross over and go ball side, you can go for inside water. There's about 3 to 4 different things you can do there. And again, it depends on the defender. You know, whatever the defender does, you should have an answer for everything they do. So this is something that we used to practice daily. And we just do a simple drill. Beat your man, go beat your man. And so this is one-on-one, and you have to beat your man. And so I would tell the defenders, I would tell each defender ahead of time what kind of defense to play. Play on the right, play on the left, hips down, hips up. So I would move the defender all over the place. And then make the driver read that and act accordingly.
I have a question about,
Yeah.
So the way with the ball, because I actually did that a couple of times this year with my girls. And I don't know if it's just because these are young and developing
Which
players.
one?
The one you just did, like I taught them how to take 2 strokes and then cut over.
Cut over, yeah.
But the issue I have is when with the ball, sometimes that person was more than likely getting pressed because, we're developing teams.
Yeah,
A lot of good teams would just press us. And it would take them a little longer. So what I don't know, maybe you can kind of elaborate on it. What I did, I had the top person kind of release to the ball too. So the ball's still on this side of the pool.
But just to get a pass,
Right,
get a good
get a pass because it would take a long time. And then my swimmer would take a little longer than probably most walkover players to actually get that done. You know what I'm saying?
It has to do with timing.
Yeah.
And so timing is important, because if you do this drive and they can't get the ball to you, it's almost a waste of drive, and especially if you get open. And sometimes you sit out here and I tell, how referees love to call a foul. So you're being pressed out here, and it's so easy sometimes. It depends on the referee, but a lot of referees, you put your hand on the ball, you just let go of the ball and go like that, and they'll call a foul. So you get a free pass. So it's pretty easy to get a free pass in most situations. You have to kind of scout the referees ahead of time to see if they call that. Because some have a tendency to call that all the time. So if I'm a driver right here, I wait for the whistle. And when I hear the whistle, then it's going to be on the ball. You know that your teammate is going to have a free pass. So that's when I go. That's one time I can go. So let's say there's no whistle. But if it's not being pressed, you can go at that time too. And that'll happen sometimes too. And the teams will start pressing the ball. 50% of the teams we play never press the ball. So, but now, you have the situation here where this person's being pressed, and you said you would throw the ball, have this person release here, throw the ball here, and then they would throw it in.
To help,
You can do that too, help the ball. You can go anyway, and this person here is gonna have to try to make a pass under pressure.
So when it's a press, basically what you're saying is the person that's driving, they have to be able to read. When the ball is being pressed, they have to be able to read to know not to go into the whistle with more than a free pass.
Yeah. And then eventually you're gonna have to go anyway, if you don't hear a whistle, or this person's not able to make a pass. But this is a good idea. Now, here's the other skill that you've gotta teach, right here. You've gotta be able to pass under pressure without getting a free pass. That's one of the hardest skills there is to learn. And we did it all the time in the early days, so we were used to this, because we had personal fouls. And if that person fouled, that was one foul. You got 5 of those like basketball, you're out of the game. So that was a personal foul. So we pressed without the foul. And referees they didn't want to call that foul because it would count against the guy, So they allowed you to press. And you had to learn how to pass the ball while you were being pressed. Now there's a lot of ways to do that. And Everyone's gonna be a little different. First of all, you gotta have good legs, and you gotta be able to separate, okay? But the first thing is you gotta start in this position. Here's the defender, you gotta start perpendicular. If you start like this, you know, you're in big trouble. So you gotta turn that shoulder in there, here. Now, if you can start like this, you can give the ball a little push, take a stroke, and go under the ball and turn around and make the pass. Or you can start with your right shoulder turned in, put the ball out here with your left hand, look over your right shoulder, here, give the ball just a slight push, take one stroke, hand underneath, turn and make the pass. Some people like to go like that first, and so when you go like that, the person's gonna go like that. As soon as they back off a little bit, then you go. Then you can go. You gotta be careful about doing this, because the referee could call that as an offensive foul. But you can give a little push there too. So there's several ways right there. I like the right hand in there too, and actually taking the stroke. The other thing you can do is somebody's guarding me right here. They're on this shoulder usually, okay? Because I'm going to pass like that, right-hander. So if they're on that shoulder, I could also left hand, pass with the left hand.
That works
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah,
Because
left-handed
nobody's
pass.
looking for it.
Yeah,
If you're at 4 or 5, every
right.
time.
Yeah, and as long as your kids know how to do that, and you know, you can make that. It's a short pass. To pass the ball into 2 meters, some people will do that, to pass the ball into 2 meters. And so left-handed, and there's one more. Right hand, left hand. Oh, I'm like this, that person's gonna be right here on my shoulder. I put my left hand down here, and you know, if I was being guarded up in the middle of the pool and I wanted to turn that person, I'd put this hand down here, underneath the armpit, here, you know, and I put the arm down, maybe here, because they're gonna be like this, you know, guarding you. And put the hand down somewhere in this area, and do a half turn. Like you're gonna turn the person, but you don't go all the way. So you go like this, turn, and just go part of it. Now your hand is free. You can pass from there. You know, if I wanted to go all the way, if I was out in the middle of the pool, I'd put this hand down, and I would turn, and then I'd go inside water. But you only go halfway. So it's a half turn. Half turn. And some people, this is a very difficult thing to do, to pass under pressure. And that's one reason why we press. That's one reason, because we press because it works. And what kills it is if referees call that foul automatically. It kills your press. So, but that's one reason we do press, is because a lot of kids cannot pass under pressure. And you're putting a lot of pressure on the other team, and it keeps them from getting the ball down the pool. So that is definitely a skill you have to learn. This releasing is another skill for this person here. Stroke forward, pop back, depending on where the defender is. But that's a very important skill to know when to release, how to release. Now, if I'm this person here and I see my teammate over here struggling and can't get the ball to me, you know, I make a little release move. Now here's a good place to use the left hand. If I'm right here and I'm going to throw from here to here, it's very easy to do. You know, first of all, if I try to throw the ball right-handed, here's the defender, I'm going to try to throw it over there to my teammate, but that's not going to work. So this is a very easy time. You just left hand, just a little pass like that, left-handed, over to my teammate over there. So, but you need a release move here. We would do release drills a lot, because especially when you're being pressed, that's the only way you can move the ball, is to release. You got to release. If you just sit, everybody just sits against a press, it just doesn't work. So if you're being pressed, you have got to release. And they have to recognize that. They have to be able, and it's just a simple thing, you know, you probably all call it the same thing I do. Help the ball. Help the ball. You know, if this person's in trouble, here you gotta help the ball. You know, you do the same thing with the pass from the goalkeeper. You take a stroke towards the ball. We're gonna go over defense in a little while. When you talk about playing in the passing lane, if I'm playing in the passing lane, and that person just sits there, it's really easy. But if they're moving towards the goalie, and they get the ball from the goalie, if they're moving, it really makes it difficult to play in the passing line. So movement is really a key when you're being pressed. And like I say, you all probably have different situations in games, but the 2 or 3 high school seasons that I was involved in, I would say that at least half the teams never pressed. They just came right back into a zone. So that makes it that a little bit easier. Now, what happens if you get grabbed? Okay, well, if you swim right up to the person like that, straight into the defender, it makes them easy to grab you. Okay, so let's say you could go around the side. If you go around the side of the person, what are they going to do? If they're not a very good defender, they'll sit like this, vertical position. You start going around the side, they're going to go that and hook you. Okay, you cannot keep swimming in that situation. Because if you swim, if they hook you like that and you keep swimming, you're going to get called for an offensive foul. So you have to stop. Now, if you stop and just back up and go the other way, you know. And if they grab you with both hands, this is the hard one. But you cannot react to that by trying to push away from them, trying to get away when they're holding you like that. When they're holding you with 2 hands, or even with 1 hand down below, you have to use your legs and 8-beater up and move the shoulders like this. You cannot make any kind of movement away from that defender. So you have to use the legs and get up, and it's kind of like the 2-meter player does sometimes. You know, I used to call it shake and bake. But yeah, you have to just show, and if they're holding you here, you kind of have to show the referee that you're being held. And according to the new rules that came out a couple of years ago, that's supposed to be an exclusion when they're holding you like that. And that was the reason they added those rules, is to create more driving. This happened in basketball. I don't know if you remember how many years ago it was. Basketball defenders used to be able to hand check drivers. And when they took that away, they took that hand checking away, the driving game in basketball increased tremendously. So just that, and that's what they're trying to do with these rules. They're trying to take away the holding, especially the holding with 2 hands. So the first reaction of a driver when you're being held is to try to get away from them, push away from them. And you don't want to make any kind of movement away from the defender. It's got to be up. You got to come up and show that you're being fouled. So that's not easy to do, and it helps to have good legs there too when you're being held. So when you're driving, you really have to watch the defender as well as know where the ball is. You've got to see what that defender's doing. You know, are their hips down? Are they looking? If they look away from me, again. When I was up at Davis helping Danny out up there, he was having his defenders on drives. If I drove this way, and here's the defender, so I'm the defender, instead of turning and going with him, he would have them spin to the outside. Spin to the outside like this, right, and then follow him that way. Well, if I see a defender spin to the outside, I'm going to stop and go up like that. Because they just they've turned away from me, they've spun, here's the driver right here, I spin to the outside, immediately I'm not watching the driver, and I'm making this move like this, and if that person reads which way I'm looking, they can stop, and stop right here, don't even make a move, just take 1 stroke and then stop. And when they make that move, then you get the cross pass there for the drive pass, and a shot. We used to call these RBs, rare backs. You know, I don't even know if they use that terminology anymore. But it was about the most common term ever used in driving was an RB, a rare back. And I don't know. Maybe you guys probably haven't even heard of it before.
Bring it back.
Huh?
Let's bring it back.
Bring it back. Yeah.
Agreed.
Hey Dante,
Yeah.
while we're on the topic then, if you're overplaying the lane on defense, and the guy drives on you, you're saying to not do a counter spin, are you saying, how are you teaching to play drive defense or that?
You turn them you go with them.
Okay.
Yeah, you go with them. Now there's,
Even if you're up in the lane.
yeah, now you, just, in defensive position, this person's driving here. You don't wanna be here, because they can drive past you too easily. And you don't wanna be here, okay? You wanna be right about at like a 45-degree angle, pointed, like your feet should be pointed towards the center of the pool here. So you wanna be in this position right here, because you can stop everything from there. Now, let's say you're in that position. You're in that position, and you wanna be on that side, and your objective here is to make them drive and go out here. So, as soon as they start moving forward, you turn and go with them. So, I'm like this, I'm ready for them, they start driving, I turn and I swim and I stay with them, and I'm watching them. If they stop, I'm gonna stop. If they keep going, I'm gonna go. And I don't want, if I get too far ahead of them, then they can stop. If I get too much to the side, they can get past me. So this is the ideal position with the hips up. It's right at about a 45-degree angle here to the driver. Is that what you were talking about?
Well, I just bring this up because this is one of the, like, I always taught, and I used to always do, just turn with them.
Yeah,
So,
right.
You know, ODP system came out and it was the counter spin, right?
That's where it came from.
And then,
Yeah.
and then like, for instance, like Jovan, hates that counter roll.
Yeah.
And, you know, scream and yell at kids for doing it. So, I think that's one of the biggest issues probably in USA water polo is, I guess, even like something as basic
Yeah.
as this.
I wonder where Danny
People
got
are
that.
doing it different.
But don't you think it works because the drivers that you're defending aren't actually looking for the ball?
Exactly,
right.
and that's why I prefer my guys to do it, because I think it's faster for them if they get beat to counter spin to catch up.
Right.
This high school age kid, you know,
They're not gonna take advantage of that.
well,
The driver.
if a guy drives high school age kid to turn around, you know, top
Yeah,
side,
yeah.
they're gonna get beat so bad, so I teach that counter spin because
Right.
it's quicker.
Well,
And most high school kids aren't gonna, they'll recognize that
Yeah.
pop and take a shot from like 7 meters, catch a shot.
Plus, they don't
We
get
did
caught
this-
on their back.
Yeah, yeah.
We did this defense when driving, you were going 50, 60 drives a game.
Yeah.
And so we did that defense, and we tried to force them to go out here to the side. Now the counter, again, if this person doesn't know, doesn't know how to take advantage of that, and you did a counter spin, it is easier. The other thing is, if you're out here in the middle of the pool, and you're, let's see here, let's say out here in the middle of the pool, and that person starts driving on you, okay? And even without the ball, and they'll start driving on you. If you turn into them, and that person just fakes a little bit, you can get kicked out for that. So the counter spin takes away that possibility of you getting kicked out. As you turn to take that stroke to go with them, you put that hand there. A good driver will fake a little bit, and it'll be.
Much like if you get turned, counter spin out of that, much like
Yeah.
the counter attack, counter spin out.
Yeah, right.
I think if you're specifically guarding this type of offense, obviously you want to teach kids to recognize the drive
Yeah,
early,
right.
you get in that backward skull, and go to
Yeah.
side to
I
side.
was gonna say, that's, to me, that's, as I said, we used to learn the backward skull, so when the guy's driving, you do a backward skull, and then you turn with him.
Yeah,
It doesn't look like you're holding because you are sculling backwards and turning, but if they go and you just turn with them, now it looks like you're holding. So
Yeah.
that's when that counter spin works better, is because they don't know how to scull backwards to.
in the days when we did a lot of driving, we never did a backward skull at all. We just turned it with them. And the skull, there's no reason why that wouldn't work. It's the backward skull, it depends how fast you can move back.
Right.
If the driver can get past you while you're sculling backwards, they might be able to get past you. Because you're moving back slower than they're swimming. So, the backward skull works pretty good, doesn't it, on that, and the turning with them?
It did for me. I mean, for the first 2 or 3 feet, I could go as quick as the other guy could get going forward, and then
Right.
it gave me time to turn. And that's how I always would do it.
I always was, using the backward skull, it was, you backward skull to kind of bring your legs up underneath you so
Right.
you could hip over.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you're not
Either
gonna backward
side.
skull as long as you can.
No, just-
It's backward skull long enough to get your hip,
That's right.
to get your hips over.
Yeah, right.
Because as your backward skull, instead of staying laid out, you're pulling your legs up. And then once I'm committed to that, it's over, and now I'm
That's
taking,
right.
taking the
And
ankle.
you're recognizing what side they're gonna move to, so you can.
Right.
And as far as you know, the counter rotation thing works because the defender just keeps going and you're up to stay with it.
Well, look, I still think that the ODP system,
Yeah.
even as it is nowadays, and they are trying to get more and more of the vertical European game,
Right.
but previously it was literally just, this is for age group in high school, where you're overplaying the lanes every single time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm literally overplaying the lane in a press, so you almost had to do a counter spin.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
at an international level, nobody presses like that.
yeah,
At the college level, nobody presses like that. You'd get torched, you know?
yeah. So you're saying that overplaying the lane right
Like
here.
way, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
the
way
way that ODP teaches you to overplay the lane, like if I'm guarding somebody, shoulders right here, the ball's over here, I take the hand away from the ball, move it all the way to their shoulder, the ball side shoulder, they take my hips and point them almost completely right.
Yeah.
So that I'm so far in the lane for the counterattack, because that's really what the emphasis of that press.
It was the counter. And look, it works great when I'm playing against bad teams.
Yeah, when you're
Yeah,
playing against a
right,
team that can't pass.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
SoCal uses
if
it
you're-
very
If
effectively.
you're in a good position here at that 45-degree angle, you're in position to jump in the lane, and you're also in position to get the drive. And you can, as long as this person is sitting, and a lot of them do, they just sit there and, you know, they want the ball right here. And when that ball's in the air, you can jump past and jump into the lane. And we used to call it baiting the lane. You're baiting it. You don't actually play in the lane or overplay the lane. You're baiting the lane and you're waiting for the jump to make. But like I said, at the college level, if you do that, you're going to get burned on the drive. Now, if you do that in the middle of the pool somewhere, big deal. You know, you overplay the lane, and that person gets past you, they're still going to swim all the way down the pool. There's going to be people that can help. It's not a big deal. But if you do that in front of the goal, and you jump into that lane and they get past you, boy, you're in big trouble there. So, and that's why I like sitting here at this position, and you're ready to jump in that lane, and you're ready to go back on defense at the same time, so you can go either way in that situation. So,
Well, I think you can probably see the pressure, just like that counter spin works because people don't drive. Pressing the ball like ODP teaches works because people don't drive.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw a single drive at like the internet, like those games they had down at CDN, like what was it, the FINA Continental League, whatever.
Right.
That was actually intended to do anything other than clear space. I never saw a single
Oh,
guy
yeah.
going like to attack. It was always, oh well, my guy's
Sorry.
dropping, so I'm going
Yeah.
to take him away from the
Right.
ball.
Well,
Casual swimming through.
At the international level too, nobody really does a full-on press
Yeah,
because
that's
it's 2
true.
years to, yeah.
they're doing more press in Europe now.
Yeah.
They're starting to do more, and then what they do is when they're pressing and fronting, and as soon as you lose front position, they'll come back into the zone. So that's kind of the standard European thing. Now, the other thing is setting screens, and I'm gonna need a couple volunteers. It's easier to show it, I think, with Pat's on. So, Renegades.
Yeah. We get a little advertising in here.
That's a brand new caps right there too.
Yeah. I warned him. Yeah, I warned him these are year old. No, that was right. I think they might be. It might be a little small.
No, Renegade's in the front.
Yeah, these are a little small, so. But I need, I just want to work on some screens, so can you come up and, yeah, a couple guys come?
Put a cap on.
And you're gonna be my teammate,
Okay.
okay? Don't take any pictures of these.
Sorry, I've already got it. In fact, it's being live streamed right now.
Okay, let's see. Yeah. Yeah, and these are small.
Yeah.
Are these like age group caps, Steve?
These look. Yeah, I just grabbed the first
I think
ones.
those are literally the original ones from like
Yeah, they
10
are.
years ago.
They definitely have the smell of them.
So, I'm gonna set the screen for my teammate, and so I wanna block his defender, okay? So, I'm gonna make this move over here. Now, again, you gotta remember the first thing, you're not screening water, you're screening a person. Okay? In basketball, they say you're not screening air, you're screening a person. So you have to make body contact, and that's the problem with most of the screens you see nowadays, there's no body contact at all. But you cannot go up like this and screen like that, because it's gonna be an offensive foul. So, and the first guy that kind of started this years ago was Monty Niskowski, when he was our national team coach. He got it from basketball, and we did screen for about a period of about 8 or 10 years. We did screens a lot, and so what I have to do is I want to block him at the same time. I want to put myself in position to drive if I have to. So I'm going to come over here. So I'm swimming over here to him, okay, and he's paying attention to his the person he's guarding over there, and it's easier to do this. You can do it against in the zone also, but it's easier to do it if it's in a drive. And my left arm, I'm going to come over here like this. I'm going to take a stroke just past him here. Okay, I'm not going to go up to him like that. I'm going to take a stroke past him. I'm going to take this stroke here, and I'm going to put this part of my body, my lats, my shoulder, right next to him here, with my hips up like this. The moment I do that, my teammate goes around that way. Okay? Now, if he has followed, you come over here, he's following me as I'm swimming over there, he's following me. My teammate goes, and you go after him. Now he has a ball side drive. Okay? So I don't have to do anything. Okay, so come on back again. Now let's say that he's really smart and he's not going to follow me over here. He waits right there and he waits for the screener and he picks him up. Yeah, so he doesn't really have a ball side drive, but look where I am here. I've got the goal in front of me here. I've got my head just past his shoulder. So now from here, then I go. He stops. He reads that defender has gotten him. He stops, and I go. I've got inside water here in front of the goal. Yeah. So, and here's what happens if, come on back over here. Here's what happens if you just go in and screen and don't touch anybody, you just swim in here like this, he just goes with him. Yep. You know, and then we have nothing. So you have to make body contact. Now, there's another thing, a couple things that can happen. He could fight through the pig, but if he goes over me, that should be a foul against him too. What happens a lot of times is the coach tells them they're going to screen you, so drop off the screen. So as I swim over here, he drops back, and he drops back. If they both drop back like that in front, then I just go right here. I don't hold him or anything. I just go right here, and he pops back there and gets the cup. Yeah. So
Breck's favorite play.
Let's keep these on a second. So that's the importance of keeping your head up and knowing what the defense is doing. If they drop back, and you know, even if they drop back to the 2, you can still screen him. You just keep going. I mean, they can't drop back inside the goal, so you can still set a pretty decent screen that way. Yeah, and then if he follows over, then we've really got him. If we've got them both backed up to the 2, then we've got a good shot there. Okay, the other one is now if let's see, you 2 guys are out there. Or why don't you go over here to the wing? Yeah.
Breck's enjoying this way too much.
Especially when you're wearing glasses.
Yeah.
So, I'm the guy's clearing out. So you're over here behind me on this side, and so I didn't get the ball. I drove in. I didn't get the ball. I'm in the center of the pool, so I'm going to clear out. I'm going over to the wing. Here's my wingman. So I'm going to swim over here, and I'm going to go like this. Okay, he goes around that way. Okay.
I have to cover up.
And if he covers him up, then I can go. If he doesn't get him, then he's going inside water. Yeah, exactly.
I remember they used to do that last one with Hudnut and Tony.
Yeah,
They
Hudnut used to do
roll it
that.
out to the 1, and then Tony would wrap around
Yeah,
inside.
and we did that on purpose.
Yeah.
We put Tony on the wing, and we did that. You can also put your 2-meter player on the wing, and that's a good way to get your 2-meter player into ball side hold position, is to put your 2-meter player in the wing. Now this guy is clearing out here. I can do that to the wing. I can do that to the player out there. I just go out and turn my back. You see this in basketball. The Warriors are doing this a lot with Bogut, the Australian center. He just goes out there and sticks his butt up there. They actually call it a butt pick in basketball. And sticks his butt out there, and basketball does this so well. It's a little easier to do in basketball because you can move so fast. Water polo is a little more difficult, but man, they really do work. As long as you don't use your hands, you're not going to get called for an offensive foul. So.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, sure.
When you say, like, go ahead and say, set a pick, like, when you were saying set your pick, I pretty much do the same thing coming up here, but I tell my players to bring their knee up and 8 feet vertical to help, as long as you don't
Whatever
tilt them.
seals water.
Yeah, to get that high enough, because all you look like you're horizontal.
Oh, you mean me?
Yeah, no, I mean me, as I'm gonna set the pick against you.
Oh, you're setting the pick.
As I come up and set the pick, like you said, behind here, I make sure my guys get their knees up.
Yeah.
A beating to help.
Okay, so I'm setting the pick here, and I'm gonna bring my leg up like this. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, to like, say your 21 pick, when I'm.
Oh, a 21 pick.
Yeah, when you're
Oh,
going
okay.
down, like, so.
It's between the.
Let's
I'm,
switch, yeah, let's
I'm
switch.
going over here like this.
Uh-huh,
Yeah, bring the knee, bring this knee up like this.
yeah,
Yeah, and egg beater, but that's all part of keeping the hips up too.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep the hips, if you
Right.
go over and set a pick like this, with your hips down, he's gonna easily get around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
That's
key, is
good.
get your hips over there and in the way, and then
yeah.
Yeah,
there's nothing they can do to get around it.
And I do a up pick as well,
yeah,
and the same thing I tell my players when they come up to the 21 coming up.
yeah.
Same thing here, I try to get them to that side, so that as that player decides, he can read the defender. If he goes that way, then you're gonna have inside water
Right,
as well.
right. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we just run it, right.
That's the thing I like about the picks, it always forces the defense to make
Yeah.
decisions.
Do you have trouble getting your kids to do it in games?
Yes,
Absolutely.
it takes effort
So,
and
Uh,
communication.
So that's a matter of getting to do it in practice and getting to do it on their own, but, you give them a challenge. Okay, you have that 3-on-3 drill I showed you, okay? You got one person with the ball, and you tell them, okay, you have to get a shot on the goal, you can only do it with a screen. You can only do it with a screen. And if you score a goal without the screen, it's not gonna count, and you can keep track of goals, you can make little contests out of it, there's a lot of ways to motivate them, but, let's say, if I don't set the initial pick, and I go in, I drive in, and I shoot the ball, that doesn't count. And we're keeping score, so one group, the whites against the blues, and, you keep, number of goals scored. If you score off a one-on-one drive, that's not gonna count, you have to score off of a screen. So, and at the end of practice, the losing team gets out early, or the winning team gets out early. The losing team has to stay around and put lane lines in, or put lane lines in, put covers in, I'll do all that kind of stuff. So it's amazing what they'll kill each other just to keep from putting the pool covers in. So, and so, let's say if I swim in anyway and I get position, and now he knows the rule, we can't score in this position, so now I have to go out and run a reverse pick on my teammate, and then we run a reverse pick or butt pick, and then we can score off of that, but we can't score. So you have to challenge them in practice, and then by making these stipulations, and then you have to really insist that they run these in a you could do a 6-on-6 scrimmage, and you could say the only way you can score is by running a screen on a 6-on-6 scrimmage. And that's another situation where you keep track of goals. This is a common thing to do in practice, is you run some kind of a 6-on-6, 4-on-4, 3-on-3, whatever. You keep track of goals. You give points for certain things, like you do a 6-on-6 scrimmage. If you want to concentrate on the counterattack, okay, you get 2 goals for a counterattack goal, and you only get 1 goal for a normal goal in front of it. So, and you're keeping score. You got 2 equal teams, you're keeping score, and so whatever you want to emphasize, you could even give points for a defensive thing. You could even give points for, if you draw an exclusion on a drive, you get 2 points for that. You don't have to get a goal out of the 6-on-5. You get 2 points for drawing an exclusion on a drive. So whatever you want to emphasize. And then, it's absolutely amazing to me that players just get out of practice a little early and not have to stay around and take all this stuff out and put lane covers in. It really becomes competitive. And this is a way to create a competitive situation in practice that's similar to a game situation. Not quite the same, but it is competitive. I coached Wolf Weigo for 4 years. He's the most competitive guy I've ever coached. He's now the coach at UC Santa Barbara, but he was a 3-time Olympian. And we went to Hawaii once for a summer tournament over there, and we'd do beach workouts. So I'd go out in the water, and the guys would have my assistant coach would start them. One end of the beach, they ran in the sand, all the way to the other end of the beach. They had to go around we had a marker there. They had to swim out through the surf, swim out to me, I was pretty far out, go around me and come back, and then run down the beach again to finish. And the prize for that was like a $5 gift certificate to Taco Bell or something, you know? And Wolfweigo he'd do everything he could to win that lousy $5 gift certificate. I mean, he would grab guys in the water and pull them back, he would push guys out of the way, you know, and he was a good swimmer anyway, and he knew how to use the waves to his advantage, and he won every one of those contests, you know, it was just absolutely amazing. But that's what I mean, if you create this competition during the practice, and you can make any theme that you want during the practice. It can be a defensive theme, it can be an offensive theme. We're working on the counterattack, we're working on drawing exclusions, on drives, we're working on screens. You know, all these different things that you want to work on. You simply give more points for whatever you want them to do than for scoring a normal goal. And same thing on defense. You give points for doing something well on defense. So this is an example of how to get them, hopefully to get them to use screens and picks in a game. So let's see if I got any other. So we've gone over the. I've got a lot of stuff written down that I need reminders every once in a while. So timing on the picks is important. We're talking about timing. If you could set the screen while your teammate is ready to pass it to you, that's whistle blows. The same thing on a drive, but it's the same thing in timing on the screen. And you shouldn't have to take more than a couple strokes, you know, to set that screen. Again, you got to have somebody willing to set screens, you know, and that's why it's up to you as the coach to convince them the importance of that. You know, you're not going to get it, but your teammate is, and only because you set the screen, your teammate got free and went in, drew an exclusion, or got a goal out of it. So.
Yeah, it's been my observation that at our age group that the problem with setting those picks and screens is either they don't want to make contact,
Yeah.
they'll stop too early because they
Right.
feel uncomfortable making contact, or the guy who's setting the screen or the pick has it in his head that this is to free me, so he leaves too early. He'll set the pick and then immediately
Yeah,
go.
You gotta hold it and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't realize, no, you're freeing somebody else.
Yeah, right.
That's your job.
Or the guy that creates it's set for leaves early before the pick's
Right.
there. And they
Goes through early.
Right.
He's so excited, oh, it's coming on.
Yeah. And that's part of the timing too. Is that person can't make that loop around until the screen is set, yeah. Or as the screen is being set, then they can make that move, yeah.
It's just like you did all that talking about driving. The biggest problem that I have seen with drivers at the high school level is they think they can win their drive by being faster than the person they're driving against.
Yeah.
And so it's like, they drive really, really fast, and all of a sudden there's a 2 meter area, and they're like,
No,
but I was ahead for like 2 seconds though.
Yeah, there's definitely a big difference between teaching these skills at age group and high school and college. I mean, it's amazing, the differences sometimes. And, you know, but they've got to learn these skills. Yeah, they've got to learn to drive, they've got to learn to pass, they've got to learn to set screens, and all these skills that we just talked about, they've got to be able to do those skills, and so those are things you have to work on. And then you got to get them to do them in games, and that's when you set up drills so that they have to think. Just learning how to drive by itself doesn't help. When do I drive? Where do I drive? How do I drive? Where do I go? Where's the defender? These are all things that you have to take into consideration in a game. It's not just learning the skill by itself doesn't do any good. I mean, it teaches them how to do that skill, but then things change. What if the defender drops off? What if the defender presses? What if the defender's on this side? What if the defender's on this side? You know, there's so many things that can happen. And so this is what the challenge is in coaching to me, is to get them to be able to make decisions on what they should be doing, but instead of just doing the drill. Because you can do that drill just over and over and over again, you know, in practice. See, most of us, and we've always done that, repetition is always a big buzzword on drills. You repeat something enough times, they're gonna do it. That's not necessarily true. You repeat something 100 times, and then you get in a game and the situation changes a little bit, and they can't read the situation, they can do that drill, or that skill, but it doesn't do any good because it changes in the game. So
You know, one of the things too that we're dealing with is the fact that these people's parents do everything for them.
Yeah.
So making a decision is gonna be really tough for a time.
Isn't that the,
But
yeah,
once you kind of empower them and then the trust factor goes up,
yeah,
now all of a sudden they can launch into doing their own thing. So there's a lot of societal BS that you gotta
Oh,
deal
yeah.
with with this stuff.
and trust is, that's a very important point, and trust is a big deal too. You have to trust your players, you know, and sure, they're gonna screw up, you know, and if you trust them enough times and you give them this freedom to do these kind of things, they're gonna get better and better at it. And it might take a year or two before they really get it down. But eventually they're gonna get it. But if you start getting on them every time they do something and do it wrong, and you're trying to control every little move and every little thing, they're never gonna do it.
But the kids invent the game for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And once you have your system kind of in place and maybe you have like some parameters of this,
Yeah.
then they can make decisions within the system.
Ex-
And then it becomes like this really cool thing to watch and participate in and
Right.
everything else.
And make them make decisions in practice too. That's another real key. Yeah.
And then if they don't, you can just hit them. Make sure it doesn't show anywhere.
Can't do that.
But you're right about parents. I mean, the parents have changed in the last, I've been around a long time. Parents have changed since I was a kid. And even when I first started coaching. And parents do everything for their kids, you know, it's just amazing.
Hey, bring in towels and drinks.
And he also coached too, now.
Yeah,
This year for me on both programs, it was,
yeah.
Seriously.
I've noticed that too.
And that's all the experience of watching a few games.
Yeah, and you know what, swimming parents are worse than water polo parents. Water polo parents don't always understand the game.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
But swimming parents, you know, as soon as they get a stopwatch in their hand, or they just watch one race, they know everything about swimming if there is to know. God.
Yeah, 'cause it's easy. Well, you got this time, next time you should try to get faster.
Yeah, but go
That's all the coaching is,
If
right?
it doesn't get faster, then let's go to a different club.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I coached swimming for years too, but I used to give our swimming coach at Stanford a bad time. I said, "What's so hard about coaching swimming? You know, you get up on the starting block, you dive into the pool, you swim as fast as you can to the other end of the pool, you turn around at the wall and you swim as fast as you can back. That's it. You know, that's all there is to coaching swimming, right?"
And if you didn't do it fast enough that time, you need to do
You
it
do
a bunch
it
more
faster
times, so the
next
next time you can be fast.
No, and forgetting
I
about
know.
posting the workout and then sitting over in the corner. Nice donuts.
You
The old Chuck Riggs way.
I know some water polo coaches like that too.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we're behind by 3 goals in the game. We gotta score more goals. Okay.
If we'd have just scored goals the whole game.
Just sit your own book about that.
So, just to finish this subject, the shooting, you've got to practice shooting the kind of shots you're going to get in a game. So, you know, just think about all the different ways you can shoot the ball, and then set up drills like that, where you're not getting the ball, you're not taking 2 strokes, stopping and getting the perfect pass from somebody who's not even being pressured over there. Perfect pass lands right in your perfect right hand, and you take the perfect shot. You know, that's not going to happen in a game. So, bring passes in from all over the place. Change the defender, position of the defenders. You know, just create all these different kinds of shots.
Now, as you're teaching these skills like screening and driving, do you develop the skill from the very basic, or do you throw them just, hey, this is kind of like we just did, hey, this is how you set a
Yeah.
screen, and then here, go try and work it, or is it, hey, I'm gonna let you guys run, you know, at 21, and you're not gonna have a defender here or here,
Yeah.
so that you can do it a couple times. How do you progress this? What's the skill progression?
Right. Well, that has been changed over the years, and there's still controversy over that, on how kids learn stuff. And do you do the whole thing first and then break it down into parts? Or do you do the parts first and then put them together and do the whole? Or do you just have them do the skill, try it, you know, maybe
Troubleshoot it.
Yeah, try it, and if they let them do it a couple times, then you make corrections as you go along. I think it depends on the age of the kids. If they're a little older and they've already pretty much have the basics of maybe how to drive, then you can put them in a 3-on-3, 4-on-4. But if you got a young kid that's never driven before, you have to teach them the basics of driving first, and then you got to put them in situations where they're going to have to decide how to drive, which way to go, and they may even create things on their own that you didn't even show them. You know, I mean, I'll use the example of kids who are playing tag. You know, little kids are out there playing tag, and somebody comes up to tag them, and some kid comes up to tag me, you know, I'm running, and some kid comes up to try to tag me, I'm gonna, you know, do that, try to avoid the tag, or I'm gonna spin away, or something like that. And I don't have a tag coach telling me, you know, how to do that, you know, I do it on my own, right? I figured it out on my own. So certain things you can have them try on their own, and then make adjustments afterwards. Certain things you have to teach the basic skill first, and then put them in the basic situation. There's certain things that you have to teach 2 or 3 skills, and then you kind of put it all together. This is the way I used to do this a lot, in certain, you know, when I was coaching, is we work on break down the skill into 2 or 3 parts, and then do those separately and put them all together. I would have a tendency now, especially with older high school kids and with college guys, is to maybe try something first, like do this 3-on-3 drill first, and then see what it is. Okay, this guy's having trouble on a drive, this guy's having trouble, they don't know how to set a screen or something. So you can figure out from the drill what they need to work on, and then you work on that afterwards. So that's the way I would do things now if I was still coaching.
And nowadays with technology, the video and stuff, how much of that would you show them?
Yeah, well, this was John Wooden's way. When he coached at UCLA, he would always have it demonstrate before they did something. Either show it to them on a video. He would have very short talks. You know, you don't need a lot of talk. Talking, you can overdo it by talking too much when you're introducing something like that. You know, let him do it first. But he would actually try to have somebody that knew how to do it, or he could show a film of it. This is what I want you to do, and you can use that too. But you don't want to spend a lot of time doing that, because your pool time is very valuable. And you know, you certainly don't want to spend a lot of time introducing a drill. If a drill takes 10 minutes to introduce, that's way too. And you only have a 10-minute drill. It takes as long to introduce it as it is to do it. So
with the way that we have technology today, if you can put together a couple of videos of different types of skills that you want, like the driving skills,
Right.
how to set the screen properly, those sorts of things, you can get those to kids
sure, they take them
a
home.
couple days in advance of practice and say, hey, for Wednesday's practice, you need to go
Exactly.
watch video 2, 3, and 4,
Yeah.
and know how to do those
Yeah,
skills.
yeah.
You know.
That's a good idea, yeah. Yeah, the technology has changed so much. I mean, we didn't even have cell phones when I was.
Probably better than.
You can't even get the cell phones out of the kids' hands
Yeah.
now.
Don't underestimate the fear of, you know, being
Yeah.
struck or hit or.
No, but I mean,
So
they're in their hands by the watch.
Guys would be late for practice, and I couldn't say, why didn't you call me on my cell phone, let me know you were gonna be late, you know, now, back then,
They were just late.
Yeah, they were just late.
Kinda like that though. You're still late, now you gotta tell me you're gonna be late.
Yeah.
That's worse.
Let me go over, just, since we already talked about offense, is to go over some things on the counterattack, okay? You know, your goal on the counterattack, first of all, is to score goals, but is to put pressure on the other team, is to tire the other team out, and you want to get to the point where it becomes second nature to your players, that they don't have to think about it, that they just do it every time. They react without thinking, and it just, every time the ball turns over, you have 6 people going on the counterattack, every single time. And let me give you an example of a drill that I do that teaches reaction. So you set up a front court offense here, and you let them run. You let them run a front court offense here. On the shot, or the bad pass, or the turnover, or the offensive foul, you want them all reacting. Now, the basic concept here is you don't want them reacting to whether the ball went in the goal or not. You want them reacting to this shot. So on that move, when the hand is coming forward, I want them going. So, in order to do that, in this drill here, this is a very common drill I use all the time. This is probably the drill I use more than anything. I want them reacting to the shot, so I tell them, go on anything. go on a shot on the ball, the hands coming forward, go on anything. And it doesn't matter if it's a goal, it doesn't matter if the ball's knocked out of bounds, you're still going. We're not gonna give the ball, even if the ball rebounds in front of the goal, we're not gonna let you have that either. You have to go on anything. So we counter attack to the other end of the pool, and then we run our front court at the end of the counter attack down at this end. Okay? Now, this is where I want my quick strike down at this end. If we have a free man, somewhere we got a free man, we will try to get, that's the first priority, is to get the ball to the free man. So in a 25-yard pool, you're gonna run out of some space. If this free man, let's say this is the free man over here, if the free man is past half court, or let's say we'll put it in the middle of the pool. Let's say it's right here. If the goalie makes that pass, the ball lands here, the other goalie can come out and get it. So when they're a little ways, 2/3 court, if they're at 2/3 court, I tell the goalie not to pass it. So if they're at 2/3 court, you got a free man, I want to release here, somebody get the ball here, goalie throws it to there, and then that person throws it in there, which is a much easier pass, safer pass, the ball can land right here. If it pass on the goalie in that situation. So that's my 2/3 rule. The free man pass 2/3, don't throw the ball from the goalie. Somebody has to release. So that you do this enough times in practice, and they have to know when to do that. They have to recognize that we have a free man. For instance, I'll tell the guys, I didn't know we had a free man. I said, well, we're down here, and this guy here is shooting the ball. Maybe you think in the back of your mind somewhere that maybe that defender might get free. So that's the first place you look. That defender you're gonna beat the shooter. The shooter's out there waving the ball ready to shoot, and that defender takes off, and that's where the free man's gonna be. So you gotta kind of figure out where they might have a free man. For instance, if the ball goes in, you can always assume we're gonna maybe beat the 2-meter player, so you might get a free person there. So anyway, this is the first thing we do, is to create a free man, or have a free man. And we gotta get the ball to him. So that's our first priority.